Down to 5%, and we are holding it to 7%. You were getting laughs. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. President. Happy birthday to you. And 2 days early. Aren't they coming fast enough without moving it up? You should know what I'm wishing.
It's easy enough to guess, sir.
Thank you all for coming to the White House today as we commemorate the life and work of a president in presence of those who loved him.
For General Electric, here is Ronald Reagan.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
We're proud to have announced today that GE, in association with the Reagan Presidential Foundation, will serve as the presenting sponsor of the Centennial and lead towards the celebration of his 100th birthday in 2011.
Long before he changed the world.
Tear down this wall.
Or led a nation.
I, Ronald Reagan, do solemnly swear.
Or governed a state.
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny.
He inspired our company.
For General Electric, here is Ronald Reagan.
Mrs. Reagan, and to all the board members here today, we're excited about the celebration. We'll make you proud.
A wonderful way to begin the Centennial year was on January the 1st, 2011, with a Ronald Reagan float in the Tournament of Roses parade in Pasadena, California.
Good evening and welcome to Reagan Country.
Welcome to the party.
As young Americans, we look to the future, but also look for inspiration from role models from earlier generations. President Reagan was among America's greatest presidents.
And people in my generation have lived their lives on a foundation of freedom and economic opportunity that would not have existed if not for Ronald Reagan.
The fact that I am the first Muslim and the first immigrant to be crowned Miss USA speaks volumes to the fact that anything is possible in this country.
It's always great having those guys as my warm-up act. In fact, I have to tell you that I have never, ever seen George Shultz, Ed Meese, and Joe Albritton rock out the way I just did from the front row here. What a Reagan-esque evening. With all due respect to all the other presidential libraries, it's difficult to imagine any of them having an event quite like this.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming.
I know that Ronnie would be thrilled and is thrilled to have all of you share in his 100th birthday. Doesn't seem possible, but that's what it is.
It wasn't until 2005 that I first came to visit this remarkable building. It was love at first sight. I felt so strongly the flame of the man this place enshrines.
Ladies and gentlemen, every single strand of Ronald Reagan's DNA was coated with a firm conviction, and that was his belief that we Americans do indeed have a rendezvous with destiny.
From the men and women proudly serving aboard the USS Ronald Reagan, happy birthday, Mr. President.
Happy birthday, Mr. President. Happy birthday to you.
I'd have to say the brand new Reagan Museum was the centerpiece of the whole Reagan Centennial. It's a world-class museum. There are very few, if any, that are like it. It's highly interactive, highly experiential. If you like to browse and look at artifacts and touch history, that's there. If you like to get a story through a story well told through video, you know, that's all there. If you like to sit and participate inside of an exhibit by appearing in a movie with President Reagan, you can do that. You can hop on a horse and ride beside him at Rancho del Cielo. Any number of things you can do. So it was really a proud accomplishment.
It is my honor, on behalf of Nancy Reagan and the Reagan Presidential Foundation, to bestow the Ronald Reagan Centennial Freedom Award on Lech Walesa.
As soon as he set foot in this city of marble tributes to our past, he set fire to a revolution that inspired freedom and changed the world.
This is a magnificent 100th birthday gift. Were the president aware that it is happening, he would, I know, be deeply moved and be deeply grateful.
I've been thrilled to be in your beautiful city, and we want to thank the members of your government, the members of the commission to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Ronald Reagan's birth.
Nancy Reagan talked for just a minute about some of her memories, and of course she went back to that fabulous weekend she and the President Reagan spent with the Queen at Windsor Castle. It was one of the great memories of her life.
Many of the people that turned out for the unveiling of the president's statue, whether in Budapest or the unveiling of a new named street for the president in Prague or the Mass in Krakow or the events in London, were fans of Ronald Reagan for a really important reason. They were set free by Ronald Reagan.
Tonight, from the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Library, in a place dedicated to the memory of this Republican icon in the 100th year after his birth.
Thank you.
We will hear from the 8 candidates who would like to claim his legacy.
This year, we celebrate the 100th anniversary of 2 American legends.
Hey, Dad, watch this!
The Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
You just don't know what Indy means.
And the birth of our nation's 40th chief executive.
This season, we celebrate the 100th anniversary of the birth of our nation's 40th president and legendary fan of baseball.
This year, we celebrate the 100th birthday of one of NASCAR's legendary fans.
Today, we celebrate the 100th anniversary of the birth of our nation's 40th president and a legendary fan of the game, Ronald Reagan.
One of the most exciting pieces of GE's contribution to the Reagan Centennial was a long-lasting gift. $5 million that will pay for over 200 college-bound students to go to college. That's a legacy that Ronald Reagan would really be proud of.
Ronald Reagan was the only post-war president who really believed you could win the Cold War instead of practicing containment. And by golly, he did win the Cold War.
An important part of the Centennial celebration was reaching the next generation of young Americans.
What advice would you offer our generation to improve the public's negative perception?
Effectively create change in the government while also
representing all 50 states here with us today. Thank C-SPAN for the coverage and for that. We engaged in partnerships with 6 great American universities. Each one took on a different component of the president's life, leadership, and legacy, and involved young people across America in a study of President Reagan that will benefit them as they lead our nation and the world in the years to come.
Our mission needs to be about the future. That's what President Reagan would want. He wouldn't want this whole thing, this library and all that it stands for, to be just about him. He would want it to be about what he stood for. And our mission in the future is to make that happen.
And whatever else history may say about me when I'm gone, I hope it will record that I appealed to your best hopes, not your worst fears, to your confidence rather than your doubts. My dream is that you will travel the road ahead with liberty's lamp guiding your steps and opportunity's arm steadying your way.